Simply Cooking by MmmChef is brought to you in part by Orleans Physiotherapy, specializing in a wide range of physical rehabilitation services, including acupuncture, cupping, and more. Orleans Physiotherapy, keeping your family moving since 1990.
This program was recorded on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation.
I always have some really unique stuff in my fridge that you probably don't have in yours. Like these quail eggs. Stay tuned to see what I'm going to do with these. What's old is new again, and we're going to celebrate with 3 types of eggs and 3 recipes to go along with them. I have chicken eggs, duck eggs, and quail eggs all in front of me. And a lot of people are a little bit nervous when it comes to those different types of eggs. I'm going to show you how versatile they can really be and also how delicious they are because they all actually taste pretty much the same. Today I'm going to be making a delicious dessert pavlova, a baked frittata, as well as a cute little appetizer. So first we're going to be starting with the pavlova because it needs to get into the oven and it needs to bake for a really long time. I've got my oven set at 175 and it's getting nice and hot while I prepare the batter. Now we don't have this type of time on TV, so I've pre-prepared some of this meringue. I'm just going to show you the procedure and how to get it done so that you can do it yourself. So I have my beautiful chicken eggs here. What's neat about them is that these are pastured eggs and they come from a local farm. My friend Becca and her husband Simon, they have lots and lots of chickens and they gift me with these beautiful eggs. I'm so lucky in the summertime to get to enjoy them. Pastured eggs are something that are only available seasonally because they're really only available during the time of year where they can be outside on pasture. So spring, summer, and fall, and a little bit into the winter, you can usually find pastured eggs at your local farmer's market, and some specialty grocery stores will even carry them. What's neat about eggs is that they actually don't need to be refrigerated. We're one of the only places in the world here in North America that refrigerates their eggs. And why is that? That's because here we pasteurize them. That means that after the eggs are taken from the hens, they are flash sprayed with really, really, really hot water to take off the bacteria. But what it actually does is it also takes off the outside layer, which means that they don't last as long and they need to be refrigerated. So that's the ones that you buy at the grocery store, they go bad really quickly. These eggs, because they come from my friend Becca's farm, they have not been pasteurized and they still have their outside layer coating, which means that they don't have to go in the fridge, they can sit on the counter, and they actually also last a really, really, really long time. So for this recipe, I have to separate my eggs, and there's quite a few different ways to do that. I'm going to show you my favorite way, and then I'm going to show you this neat tool that if my favorite way is too scary for you. So this is the traditional way to separate an egg. You crack it in half, and then you flip back and forth with the yolk and get all that clear stuff off. And then you just get rid of the yolk in your bowl like that. Then this is my favorite way to separate an egg. Hold your hand out like this, crack the egg on your fingers, and kind of open and jiggle your fingers so that you can see all that egg white kind of just falls through my fingertips. And then I just slide the yolk off right into my bowl. This is an egg separator. You can buy this even at the dollar store and in most kitchen equipment stores. And what it is it has little holes in the bottom. So you just crack your egg right in there and give it a little wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And it should plop right out. This one needs a little bit of help. So for this recipe, I'm cracking 6 egg whites. And then I would be placing them into the bottom of my mixing bowl here. And I would whip, 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 whip. And then, oh, we don't want that to happen. Actually, I'm glad that happened because this is a way to show you that this is what you don't want to do. You don't want to be talking so that you're not paying attention. So see this egg yolk here? This will ruin my pavlova. So I'm gonna try to get all the egg yolk out and see if I can salvage any. Yep, I can, but only about one. That's okay. So this is something that I'm gonna save for later. I'll probably make some scrambled eggs tomorrow morning with it. Scrambled eggs was one of the first things I ever learned how to cook for myself. And a lot of people have that same experience. It's one of those things that as a kid, your mom might let you start cracking eggs as one of the first things that you get to help with in the kitchen. And so scrambling eggs is sometimes one of those first things that your parent might let you do on the stove. So just to show you, to get an idea of what I'm doing, let's get rid of this little tiny bit of yolk that splashed in. Okay. So these egg whites here would go into my mixer. I would turn the mixer on high, and they would whip for a long time, probably up to 10 minutes. And at the 10-minute mark, they would start to get fluffy and bubbly and foamy. And that's when I would turn it off, scrape down the sides of my bowl, put the mixer back down, and add my maple syrup. So most meringues and pavlovas that you may have seen in the past are really bright white in color, but mine is actually amber. And that's because, you may know this already, I don't like to use refined sugars. I like to use natural sugars like honey and maple syrup and agave. And so today I'm using a light maple in my pavlova so that I can get the same sweetness without the processing. So as this goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, I would drizzle in my maple syrup really, really slowly. And then at the end, towards the end, I would add this pinch of cream of tartar. Now, what's cream of tartar? It's a type of stabilizer. What it's gonna do for me is it's gonna allow my eggs, once they get up to that nice big foamy peak, they'll stay that way and they won't fall back down. If you don't have cream of tartar, or you don't want to go to the grocery store just to buy one ingredient for that much, you can use cornstarch and it'll work in a similar way. I'm just going to show you this. And that's basically what it was going to happen. Well, it looks like it's not quite at a stiff peak like I want it. It's a little bit runny, and that might be because my kitchen is a little bit hot. At this point, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll turn it into a cookie, or I'll give it a big whisk. Just give me 30 seconds. As you can see, that would have taken a long time if I had to do this from beginning to end in front of you. That seems to be okay. This will work. This will definitely work. I'm gonna move this all to the side. I'm gonna grab my pan. I got a pan that I've lined with parchment here. I do that so that the meringues don't stick. This is similar to something that you would use to make like macarons or even macaroon cookies. You would add in the shredded coconut and the almonds right to this and mix it up, and it would make a cookie. But what I'm actually doing is check, well, first of all, check that out. It's silky, it's smooth, it's foamy and light, and I can smell the maple syrup. So I'm gonna make some, what I like to call nests. Look at that. Just gonna blob them onto my parchment here. We want that rustic look so that everyone looks different. Now, a traditional pavlova is made as one big mound. So one big piece right in the middle here, and then you can serve it family style at the end. It's a nice dessert. But I like to do them individual because it's just me and Wendell. We're just two, so we can't eat a whole one. And this way, I can actually keep them in an airtight container for later in the week, and they stay nice and crisp. And then I have a quick dessert on the go. And a high protein dessert at that, because egg whites are full of protein. All of the protein in an egg lives in the whites, and the fat lives in the yellow. All right, I'm gonna get these into the oven at 175, and they're going to bake for a long time. I'm gonna guess at least 45 minutes to an hour. You're gonna check them after 45 minutes, tap them with your finger, and if they're crispy on the outside, you know they're ready, and if they're not, you gotta shut that oven door and leave them in there for longer. I'll see you after the break.
This program is brought to you in part by Orleans Physiotherapy, providing treatments as well as education to promote healthy and active living. Orleans Physiotherapy, keeping your family moving since 1990.
I took my Pavlova out of the oven and it's cooling, and I turned the oven up to 450. I do that because I'm about to make a frittata, and I want the temperature to be nice and hot so that it can get crispy and brown and really gooey in the inside. So I have some duck eggs in front of me. Duck eggs are much bigger than a regular egg. See? And a lot of people are kind of nervous because they think they might taste different, but actually they taste pretty much the same. I get mine at a specialty grocery store, but these types of things are now coming up more and more and more, and I believe you can get duck eggs at pretty much any grocery store, so that's really great. So I'm going to be making a frittata. A frittata is an Italian baked egg dish that translates to a fry, like a stir fry. Here in North America, a frittata is recognized as what we're gonna be doing now, where it's baked, but a traditional Italian frittata, instead of being baked in a casserole dish like this and put in the oven, it's actually just baked in a big frying pan, almost like a wok, with all of the ingredients inside. So, all right, so I have my pan here. I'm going to spray the outside of it with a little bit of olive oil, just so that when I cut into it later, it comes off nicely. If you don't have a spray bottle, you can put some on some paper towel and just rub it around your casserole dish, kind of like I'm doing with my fingers. I have some leftover cooked sausage that I had from earlier in the week. I always have something like this in the fridge or even in the freezer. I'm gonna add this to the bottom of my casserole dish. I have some leftover cooked potatoes. You can use these, omit them. You could even add cooked rice or cooked quinoa, something to kind of just give this a little bit more sustenance, basically. And I'm just gonna pull my cutting board towards me because I have this beautiful kale, fresh from one of my cruise gardens. Give this a nice rough chop. Here is where you could be using something like spinach. You could use asparagus, arugula, any type of green really, or you could leave it out completely. You could use kale, you could use spinach, or you can use other vegetables. So some chopped up bell pepper or some chopped up zucchini, those will all work. Sometimes I add some caramelized onions or just some chopped garlic. That's really nice too. All right, and now my eggs. They are much bigger than a chicken egg, and they're pure white on the inside. And they don't ever really come in a different color, like the chicken eggs you see here in this bowl. The color of the chicken defines the color of the egg. So ducks are all pretty much the same color, so all of their eggs tend to be. As you see, the duck eggs are a little bit harder to open. So another trick you can use, you can take a knife and you can do that, and that opens it up nice and clean for you and helps you not get any shells. Actually works much better than tapping it on the counter. I'm gonna fill this here real quick. I think I'm gonna have 8 eggs in here. And there's no better tool than your hands. So after I get those 8 eggs in there, I've got my Parmesan cheese and my big grater. So give this a nice grate. This is that dairy-free Parmesan cheese that I love oh so much, but you could use regular parm, goat cheese is really nice here, cheddar cheese, feta, any of it really works. I like to poke each one of the egg yolks to make sure they're broken. And I actually just, like I said, there's no better tool than your hands. Now I've got everything all mixed up. This is something that you can do in advance. You can cook it the day before and you can slice it into pieces. You can freeze it for later. It's a great meal to eat as a main course with a side salad or even as breakfast. I also really like to make them in muffin tins. So you can actually put this mixture right into a muffin tin that you've sprayed with some oil, or you can use a silicone baking muffin liner, and then you have these like breakfast egg cups ready to go. So I take a traditional Italian frittata, but you can really do so many things with it. I'm gonna pop this into that oven at 450, and it's probably gonna bake for about 40 minutes because this is a pretty big casserole dish and we want the outside to be nice and brown and the inside to be small. And of course, I see the basil, which you all know is my favorite flavor, so I gotta add a little bit of that. Pop this in the oven and we're gonna see you after the break. Check out my pavlova. So crispy and really dark in color. I know it was really light when I put it in the oven, but as it was baking, the caramelization of the maple syrup is what made it cooked like this. I'm gonna set this aside for later because we can't have our dessert before our appetizer. I'm gonna be working on my quail egg appetizer. These are quail eggs. Aren't they pretty? They are a mini version of an egg, and they taste just like a regular egg, but they add a punch, especially when you're entertaining. I love to throw them on salads or in dishes to add protein for meal prepping and stuff like that, making a few salads for the rest of the week, throwing a couple quail eggs in there. It's much funner than a regular egg. This is what they look like in the shell. They're so pretty, and they're actually blue inside. I have all these different ones here, and one of them is boiled for me so that I can show you how to peel it. So the reason that I chose to use quail eggs for my appetizer is because wouldn't this take a long time if I was using quail eggs for the frittata? So you peel it the same way that you would peel a regular egg, but it just takes a really long time, as you can see. But look at that beautiful blue shell on the inside. And there we go. A beautifully cooked quail egg. Cut that in half. Most people have had deviled eggs before, and they're usually made with duck eggs. And of course, that's the classic. But what a neat way to impress your guests with a new, fun thing. Cute little quail eggs. So I've got my quail egg yolks here. And I would make this the same way with chicken eggs or even the huge duck eggs. You could definitely use a duck egg to make these deviled eggs. And what you could do is actually, you could use it as a meal. You could have like 4 little pieces of deviled egg with a side salad, and that would be a perfect meal. I'm mushing up my yolks. And I'm gonna drizzle a tiny little bit of olive oil in there. And a sprinkle of salt. Season that up really nice. And I'm gonna get a lemon. Roll my lemon so I can get as much juice out of it as possible. Cut side up so that my seeds don't get inside my filling. And I spoke too soon because, of course, as I said that, a seed fell in. All right. And then a tiny little bit of mustard because this is going to give it a yummy classic deviled egg flavor, and it's also going to help emulsify. Look at that. Yummy, yummy. Now, if you were making regular quail eggs, you could put this filling into a piping bag or into a Ziploc bag and snip the end of it, and then you could pipe it into this. I don't have that much patience, and it's just for me, so I'm going to use my finger and this cute little spoon. Fill them up. So the frittata baked and is out and beautiful. As you can see, it's nice and crispy on the outside. That dairy-free parm melted really nice and got really nice and caramelized. And that kale that was sticking up actually got nice and crispy on the top there. It's cooked all the way through, but it's really, really hot. I'm gonna run my knife around the edges here to lift it away from the pan, and then I'm gonna slice it and pack it into containers to eat later in the week. But what a perfect meal. You could serve these little quail eggs as your appetizer, and then you could serve your frittata as your main course with a lovely side salad and a lemon vinaigrette. And then for dessert, the yummy pavlovas. Look, perfect amount of filling in my bowl just to fill this last egg. All right, rinse my fingers. And basil, because as we all know, as I say every episode, basil is my favorite herb and my favorite flavor. Give this a quick little roll up. A little chiffonade on this. How pretty. All right. I cannot resist. I must taste. So simple, so delicious. I can taste the lemon, I can taste the Dijon, I can taste the brightness of the basil. Oh wow, just so good. Perfect, perfect beginning to a lovely meal. Now I'm gonna grab my stuff for my pavlova. These are something that we can make later in the week. As you saw in my pan, I actually baked 8 of them. I've got 4 of them, in a Ziploc airtight container for later on that I'm gonna probably pull out on Saturday night when I have some friends over. But these, nice and crispy, airy, light, and a traditional pavlova is topped with whipping cream and fresh berries and sometimes fresh mint or lavender and on a beautiful platter. But I'm just gonna make one for me. My favorite thing to do with the pavlova is actually snap it and create a little bit of a nest almost for my berries and cream to fit in. So hear this, hear this. Oh, that's exactly what I was looking for. It kind of reminds me of like, what is that called? That toffee that you get. It's like a fluffy toffee. I have my cultured coconut yogurt here. You could use whipping cream. You could use a can of Ready Whip. You could use even just a drizzle of something like clotted cream or creme fraiche. But as you all know, I'm partial to my cultured coconut cream. So that's what I'm gonna use on mine. Dairy-free. Fresh raspberries and blueberries. I love that color contrast. What a unique way. So like I said, regular pavlova is usually bright, bright white. And so you don't really have much contrast. You've got the white and the white cream. But with this, oh, it's just so pretty. Some fresh mint and even a mint flower. I have to have a bite of this too. Do you hear that crunch? Ugh. Mmm. Wasn't that simple? We'll see you next time.